What's going on, everyone? The macro perspective here. Marcos and I coming back with another great episode. Today, we're speaking with Guy Leitersdorf. Hopefully, I got that right. He is the founder and CEO of Longevity AI. And I just want to just preface this real quick, and I don't want to let Guy speak about himself and how we got here. But this is a platform that we're bringing in, likely for Synergenics, and we've been able to play with it, get some great data, understanding big data from multiple things, and give clinical solutions for the clinical teams of performance health coaches, and be able to create a platform that is just one of the best that I've seen in terms of a artificial intelligence model, a software model. But I don't want to talk about that too much. I'm going to let Guy talk about it. But Guy, I did want to say thank you so much for being such a great
Thank you
person,
for
first and
having me here.
foremost. Yeah, I know. Thank you so much. But I want to just say, first off, your team has been bar none amazing. Like Hadar, I just want to shout out Hadar. Hadar's
Yeah,
at the
he
LA
is great.
office. He's
That's true.
great guy, created a great friendship with him. And then you guys extended me a ticket to the Don't Die Summit, which we got to spend a whole day together.
It
And then
was
we spent a
fun.
whole, it was fun. So I just want to say, first and foremost, already to you, like, you guys are great. Your team's been great. You guys are freaking awesome. But I wanted to just say, yeah,
Thanks.
please introduce yourself, how you got into this area of
Mhm.
thinking about software solutions for clinical people through longevity AI, and we'll just let the conversation go there. I know Marcos has a lot of questions, thoughts, and we just have a lot here today.
Sure. Great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, Hadao, just like many other good friends from the company, we actually founded it together, and we're swimming buddies for many years, swimming with the same trainer. So yeah, and we welcome you to, in some sense, to the team as a fellow longevity enthusiast. Uh, I really appreciate that. Eventually, you can build the best theoretical tech, but eventually you need that expert professionals in the day to day, meeting people, helping people, that we basically help them along the way. So amazing to get together back in LA and now here. Good question. How did I come up? How did it came to be with longevity? I think that anybody in this field has their own unique moment in life when they decided, okay, preventative care, longevity care is something that's close and dear to my heart. I think in many people have their own event in life. It can be a family member, or when you realize that your body is not going to last forever and you better keep it in good shape. For me, it was my father. He was diagnosed with a late stage lung cancer one sunny day, even though he was monitored by the best executive healthcare. And we have deans of medicine in the family. And, still somehow it was missed. And as a non medical personnel, I was upset, I was angry. But what I know today, it's just a sum of data collected, experts looking at it. And yes, today also the co pilots helping out. And or what you're trying to prevent is in this, or it's not. And the idea is, let's predict and prevent what we can. Apparently, it's 80% of unhealthy years, which is crazy for. And as a non-medical person, and I'm a data geek, and I dove into the data. There's a lot we could prevent, and for these 80% of unhealthy years of us humans, it's the major risk factor for all these conditions are your age. So that's the mission we're on, trying to give people actually healthy years.
I love it. So much synergy, right, Marcos?
I mean, yeah, the longevity space has been a very interesting thing starting 6 years ago, over 6 years ago for me, where it's like I get thrust into this position of a health coach. And at the time, it was just like nutrition and exercise counselor is what they referred to us as. And then now what it's kind of evolved into with, again, like this big kind of overarching kind of theme across, well, maybe I don't know about other countries, so I can't speak for them, but at least the American landscape about like health span and not just lifespan.
Mm-hmm.
And, this idea of longevity is like, you want to be able to do what you were doing in your 30s and your 70s, and I think that idea alone and that kind of articulation has really helped provide me with like a better understanding of like what it is I do. So yeah, like you just said, it's like again, everything can be kind of scraped back and pulled back, and behind the curtains, we have this massive amount of data, especially like with our, company that we work for, and we have
Mhm.
accumulated for some people upwards of, 3 decades worth of
Amazing.
information.
That's
And
priceless when you have it on somebody that you could really genuinely help them, because a lot of our health and a lot of the trends that we could predict and what we could help with is a lot with what we see as trending until now.
right, exactly. And so I resonate with you, Guy. I'm definitely a data nerd as well. My background's in math, actually. I just happen to be playing the role of nutrition coach these days.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, really, I mean, nutrition is kind of the same way, right? It's like kind of analyzing trends and like averages, and then how things should then be kind of moved to help you get with your outcomes as well. So,
Mhm.
being able to parse large amounts of data again. So, um, when you guys stepping in with us is trying to take our back end where we have all this historical information and informatics and data, whether it's like in cells that we've already kind of predetermined, or if it's on these like PDFs that may or may not be able to be analyzed all that easily. Um, so, like I was telling you before we kind of hit record here, was uh, biggest thing for me after visiting 10 to 15 of our centers, I think it's closer to 15 across the last couple of years, was my nightmare was like getting the printout and trying to take that information and then import it, because it's like it was in a similar spot, but it wasn't exactly in the same place, right?
Mhm.
On how like a PDF would be generated for us, which again you would think like, oh, we could just set the order of the PDF so that they all be the same. Well, no, we're using like legacy softwares here. So unfortunately, that idea didn't exist where you could change the order of the printout. Like you would think that GE would have figured that out early on. Um, but nonetheless, then we
There's a
come
lot of
in with,
harmonizing data, right? Because
yeah,
nutrition is an important element, but you want to make sure that you're focusing on the right challenges. If the challenge is the heart or cognition or metabolism conditions, then it makes a difference to where you want to navigate as an expert in nutrition, in movement. And when you want to have this printout, you want to focus your energy on the biggest concern that you can help with.
precisely, right. And so like I want to take less time doing the physical paperwork kind of thing, which is like a requirement of like being in medical, and give more direct attention to the patient with the information, right? So, I mean, why? Here's I guess my first question to you though is like,
Mm-hmm.
why longevity AI? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why was that the thing? Why is that the name of what you guys are doing?
Yeah, good question. So, I've been a data geek and AI geek my entire life. My previous role, I used to lead the AI in an advertising tech company. So I really like the fact that you could look at billions of people's data scrolling their devices and asking, hey, what can I get you to click on or purchase this? And I think it's really powerful because we do have behavioral elements that are predictable. And if we cluster 1,000 people just like us that made similar decisions until now, well, the next fork is going to be likely similar. But the question is, what's your goal in life? Like, what is my goal in life? Like, do I want to make you buy that vacation that yields the most revenue to the advertiser? Okay, cool. But what if I can get you to do something that you love, but is also one of the top three things that your physicians, nutritionists, movement expert, oncologist would like you to do? So, like, I wanted to build an AI that harmonizes the advice of the expert that really has finally your best interest in mind.
Yeah.
Because when you're seeing an ad, it's not your best interest. It's not the vacation that will make you the most happy, right? So I was genuinely excited about seeing how can I build an AI that has your best intentions and both best future in mind. And I thought about it long and hard, and then my personal situation helped me understand what is the goal. Like having more healthy years on this earth with the family, with friends, is probably a good goal to pursue.
I love that. I love that you brought in the behavioral aspect because longevity AI, like we're dealing with big amounts of data, right? Like from your
Hmm.
genetics, from your lab work to DEXA scans to VO2s, things that people talk about, the science stuff. But
Hmm.
what this solution required from you was actually, how can I help you behave in your best intention, even though you may not want to do it? And I feel that like using the same frameworks from like a social media ad campaign to nudge somebody to
Yeah.
behave a little bit better. Like for me and Marcos, I was telling him about that. Like imagine being a coach, but not having to be so overly helicoptery over your person,
Yeah.
like just always like nudging them, but
Hmm.
another platform helping you out a little bit. That's kind of like what I liked about it, Guy.
Cool. Thanks. Yeah. I think the reason people come into the field and you come from different expertise and different types of passions, and also why people want to get the help of experts in the field is because they want to help humans or be helped by humans. And then you want to just get rid of the paperwork, of the guesswork, of accumulating this and that into one platform. And you just want to see that person in front of you and help them get to the best goal. And if that person has a challenge with the heart, the rest is okay. And cardio is the way to go. Well, advising somebody who never went on a run, why don't you run 10K? Well, probably not going to be the best one to work. But if you tell them, okay, let's go back to the 4,000 steps you used to walk a day, that's going to reduce your risk by half. And that's a good first step. We can take it from there. So, and then experts get to actually do what they came for, like generally give good advice that they know will actually resonate.
Agreed. Yeah, that's. I mean, it's a. I mean, how much data do you guys crunch on a daily basis through your platform? Out of curiosity.
A lot. Yeah. So we have three different types of data sources, and then different clients. Like Cenegenics is an amazing place because you have all these utilization of a lot of types of data, but it also goes to classic primary care. We have little time, little data, and they still want to give great advice. So the three types of data are all the medical literature that was ever written. Florence Nightingale, our AI, she reads all the medical papers that were ever written from PubMed. She filters out everything which is not AAA. Has to be published in a journal with a high impact factor like Nature. Has to be recreated at least once in the last decade, and
Mm.
has to be authored by the authors of current clinical procedures. So that's how she knows she gets AAA evidence. And then our experts, like yourselves, help us make sure that all the connection between data and conditions and data and interventions are the right connections. So that's number one, medical literature. Second is medical data. And working with Cenegenics and other amazing clinics like that really help us get from this one data source all the medical information 20, 30 years ago. That's amazing. Really a shout out for Cenegenics for understanding so early on before it was so trending that preventative is so powerful and so meaningful. And for people who are fortunate enough to have all this data on them, um, that's really a win. So understanding how to crunch down together blood measurements, and if you have genetics and microbiome and DEXA and CT and MRI, stress tests, hearing tests, vision tests, very important to understanding the health. So number one is medical literature. Number two is medical data. And number three, it's my passion, like behavioral data from your day to day, from Apple Health, Google Health, in turn it connects to your Apple Watch and Fitbit and Nike and Headspace and all your lifestyle apps. So we really get to know, okay, maybe that's cardio is good for you, but you never did that. But you're really okay with your nutrition. Let's focus on that first. So we see that's how you behave. That's the data you agree to engage with and collect. So these three together, medical, behavioral, and what actually valid connections are there, are what we're using.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's you have all the information that is coming out from the top literature sites. Florence is reading that every day,
Yeah.
but there's a filter. You're actually trying to get the most human randomized control trials, the AAA, the best of
Mm-hmm.
the best. That's evidence based. And then you have the data of that said person. Like we could have a patient with years, or even just a static day if it's a new patient.
Mm-hmm.
But then you bring in this behavior aspect because now everyone's wearing these.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's got one of these, right? And the partnership with Apple Health, Samsung Health, Google Health, and everyone's got like an Oura ring, a Whoop, sleep
Mm-hmm.
data. It's a living, breathing tool. It's
Yeah.
not just, hey, come in for a day and go figure out your health. It's,
Yeah.
hey, we have all this literature. We have you for a day, your time with your doc, all the data that from there. But then
Mm-hmm.
now you have this component with what you're doing in your behavior, and we can push it against it. And then you can now stratify risk factors in the real time. You can,
Exactly.
I know that
Yes.
it's funny. So, Marcus, when you play with it a little bit more, for example, like let's say I have a dementia risk, it will nudge you to be like, hey, you've been sitting all day. Your Apple
Mhm.
Watch says you're not sitting all day.
Exactly.
Lacking steps is a dementia risk for you specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the literature on why. And it's like, oh, I got to go for a walk, right, Mark? So
Yeah.
it's like, it makes it a little bit interesting. So I love that guy. I think it's profound and it says something about the data. Could we speak a little bit more on Florence though? Like
Yeah.
where did Florence come from? Is that a artificial intelligence that you guys built out yourself? Like you had
Mhm.
like data informatic PhDs like build that out and all that?
Yeah. So as a data nerd, I when we first started, I just approached my friends. So what can we do? So we looked at all the raw data and we were thinking, how can we make sense of it? So first, we needed behavioral data, the way it's used in social media, Facebook, Twitter, like the companies to work for Iron Source, to really keep you engaged. It's more looks like a sinus wave, like something that is more connected to your what you like. Oh, you linger this extra millisecond on this post, regardless of like or share. It still registers the features of that content, and then it with the ebbs and flows keeps you on the platform. So that's one type of algorithms that we have placed in. And then we married it to LLMs that we see today, but of course, HIPAA compliant, medical grade. And in the background, we query each algorithm according to the question asked. They differ in the accuracy in different elements, but they're all sitting on this foundational model of medical literature.
Yeah.
Because if there's a connection that we can see in the data, like a correlation, it doesn't mean it's medical grade advice. So it always
Mm,
has to be connected with a paper. And the way that we understand the weights in the system in this foundational model is not only by the medical literature, because it could be that it's based on this population of 50 years ago, the Framingham score, the best way to know about the risk of the heart, taught in every medicine school across the world, golden standard. But 50 years ago, in one population, one village in the States, half smokers, not balanced on age, gender, or ethnic background. And it's still the best way to assess the heart risk for everybody listening here. And we said, okay, why diabetes, yay or nay? How about glucose and A1C and CGMs and 4,000 steps, 2,000 steps a day can be half the risk. So what we did, we partnered with the two largest HMOs in Israel, which is unique because people stay for the entire care provider for their entire life. So very similar to the brilliant move of Synergenics, collecting all these years, all this data for years. Then the Israeli system has, for millions of people, we have access to 1.6 million people, 20 years of full medical records. Even when big pharma companies came to Israel to do their beta test for corona shots, they got like access to 4 or 5 parameters, 10 maybe, because you need to justify. And because of our foundational model, we could justify each medical parameter to the one of the aging conditions. So we have full medical records. Now we have partners in North America. We have 4 million more lives in the research, and that's the key to have accurate weights. Because when you can take 1,000 people, which is just like you, not just this from that village from 50 years ago, with different status of nutrition and habits on sports and smoking status, when you get people that are really close to you with your current day to day, surprisingly or unsurprisingly, the algorithm is that much more accurate. So when we built Florence, we just wanted access to people just like you and seeing how your health behaves, but only using evidence-based medicine.
What Okay. First and foremost, you're the second person in like a 2 week span that has built their own AI model.
With the team, of course.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. What does that look like? Like, I feel like everybody and their mom is now just able to like again procure enough people in a team to like train this thing to do this one. I mean, in this case here, like this is the breadth of this is a little bit maybe more vast than our gut health friend.
We had an expert on recently, but I think they said that they just used like a white labeled GPT.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, even so it's like,
Mm-hmm.
is it just like again you're going inside of a channel inside of like Grok or GPT or Claude or whatever, and then from there you start feeding it like these are the particular parameters that are going to be utilizing this. Like, is your guys is like built on like a GPT platform, or is it like built on and housed on Claude or one of those other ones? Like, I'm curious as like the. I mean, maybe we have a coder or a programmer type of person that's listening to this particular episode and
Sure.
they're interested as like,
Yeah.
what does that look like? Because I feel like this idea or the translation between like, again, my views of like a traditional programmer guy that's like likes identifying data stuff into this next frontier, like of like AI coding, quote unquote, or AI training.
Mhm.
Like what is, I just want to know what that looks like. I want to know like what that
Yeah,
process was like.
sure. So you need a big whiteboard. Uh, yeah, a lot of nerds, a lot of pizzas, but the healthy kind. But really, and I'll go full nerd here. Really, what you want is to try and it's a good question. What is intelligence? Everybody's talking about artificial intelligence, but let's talk about what is intelligence. So it's not just data. It's not just some conclusions. It's the ability, sort of, from intuition, understand a conclusion, and it's a plus if you're right. Because if you're not right, well, maybe
That's
you
so
shouldn't
funny.
maybe
Yeah.
you should be in the medical field if you're not right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So first of all, let's try to think of how you build intuition. How is our brain structured? What is, like, people talk about AGI, like about general intelligence. So how do we build towards that? Well, we humans are not such a bad machine at general intelligence. Like, one day AI will surpass us, 2 years, 10 years, depending who you're talking to. But we're a great machine at not being just good at this one task. We're really good at being able to learn new stuff that we were never taught before. How do you reach that? So apparently our brain is built from different segments harmonized together. And different tasks are being asked to be harmonized by different sets of our brain. Like, you can see all these new tech that can read sort of what we're thinking about and then say, oh, that's what he's thinking. That's the image. He's thinking not of work, he's thinking of family. So we can interpret our brain, we can interpret the structures, we can map it out. How do we actually utilize this understanding of how general intelligence is built in our brain? We try to segment and model the different types of intelligence that we need and then harmonize it together. So 80% of our unhealthy years are just five aging conditions: diabetes and obesity, dementia, cardiovascular, and cancer. They're all impacting each other. But if you focus on, okay, what's the chance for each of them in the next 10 years? That's the classic algorithms today. Then you know which iceberg you might hit first and how you navigate away. And navigating away from one helps you navigate away from the rest. But you have different segments. You know which condition you might meet first. You focus on this iceberg. That's a different structure of the brain. Of course, it harmonizes with the rest. There's another structure of how much you're willing to do things on a Monday morning, how much you love to do things on nutrition, on movement. Maybe if you're sleeping better, you're most likely to do things on nutrition and movement the next day. So when you try to segment this out, model it separately, but also make the right connections, then you can build something which has this aha moment. You're building a combination. Let's say we're using classic elements. Sometimes it's Grok being asked a question depending if it's nutrition. Some of them use different types depending on the question. That's the algorithm. Some of them just try to get you engaged, more connected to what you want. Sometimes you need that bit less connection because you cannot be hit with the best advice all the time. That's how we work. That's how we keep engaged. So it's a different type of algorithm, which is not an LLM. It's just a classic algorithm of keeping us more engaged, less engaged, just to keep us coming back. And I think that what makes us unique and why physicians and experts trust us, which is a key part when you want to do medical and longevity in a proper way, those connections always have to be evidence-based medicine. So all these connections within this brain always has to be with a AAA paper. And that's what makes our foundational model unique. They seek out that information from other commercial elements, but it's always on this foundation of modular intelligence connected with evidence-based medicine. And a lot of lines on the board connecting them until you see, okay, that makes sense. Let's bring this expert and that expert to every element of it.
But you said something that was kind of interesting there. So there's moments where you're not getting the highest level thought from that because of like the engagement's actually better if there's like something that's been almost watered down. Is that what you're like literally part of like what you're training is like, hey, not everything could be just such a high level solution. There's like, I don't know, like we're not even going to give a touch point this week. They're so used to us touch pointing every Tuesday or once a week. We're going to just like let them kind of live in this moment and kind of sulk in it and whatever, because they've expected that. And like, does that even make sense? Like, I don't even know how to how to like kind of think about what you're saying there. Like, of course, like if you're going to like something, it's like the output of said question is always going to be the highest level thing, but you're having instances where there's not the highest level thing. Like it just seems kind of counter, but it does make sense because there are moments where even in health coaching, for example, where like our mentors would say, just like sit back in your chair as if you don't exist. Just let the people talk it out. You're not even saying anything. You're not even, and for most people, there's not even body language for us to like, at least for me, I call most of my people. So there's no body language for them to kind of like look at in terms of like me processing. They just hear silence, but there's someone on the other end here and it makes me feel some type of way.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And, they won a Nobel Prize for it, like the late Daniel Kahneman, about behavioral economics.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have system 1 and system 2, something which
Thinking
is
fast and thinking slow, right? Yep.
Exactly. So we think we're purely logical, but a lot of our decision-making are emotions that we justify with some logic. We like feeling empowered. We like feeling that we got things going on ourselves. We don't need all these helps along the way. And if somebody empowers you to be independently better, isn't that better than having somebody telling you, tutoring you every step of the way?
Okay, Guy, okay, this is why I think Guy's a genius, Marcos, because as much as he's coming up with these clinical tools and to help people out, he also wants to go, oh, you're empowered to also feel like you're the one in control. Guy, this is next level stuff.
But it's true because nobody wants to be clinging on an app for every step of the day. You want to just build a good new habit, let it sail, and then focus on the next one. Because if you'll ping 20 times a day, that wouldn't work. So you need to.
That's the truth too. I think that's also like the thing that Marcos and I talk about is like, so part of the solution you guys are also bringing is like the communication solution, right? And retention is also this thing, like a human effort, like a coach going in and connecting. Hey, what can I help you with today? Hey, let's get on a check-in call. I know Marcos and I have had conversations. I think we just had a conversation yesterday where we create retention efforts and we're out here reaching out to people because it's part of our job. And it also is indicative of like a performance health coach, an online coach like myself. Like we're trying to get people results, right? Like, someone signed up with you for 12 weeks. Someone signed up with you month to month. And they have a goal. They have a wedding this summer or something like that. They're looking for a result. So that puts Marcos and I feeling some type of way. Maybe it's anxiety. Maybe it's like vigilance. Maybe it's drive to be like, what's going on today? Where's your weigh-ins? Where's your photos? And that I think can get annoying, right? It can get very like tedious on the other hand. I know I've had to speak about this recently with a ton of clients about them feeling overwhelmed and frustration with how much like, oh, you want me to track in the app. You want me to track my macros. You want me to do this. And I'm like, I know it's a quantified self. Like, like someone probably asked, like, what do you want me to do next? Look at my gut poop? Like, I don't know. But it's true. And I love that you kind of put that onus back on the person to go, okay, I'm here to support you, but also at the same time, like I don't need to be nudging you every minute of the way. Yeah.
Mhm. And that's something that's very intuitive for experts like you that working with synergenics and with your own clients, and you really get it intuitively. That I think a big part of what you're doing, and I would never be able to do it. I'm on the tech side, but empowering people, being that person, nudging not too much, not too little, just at the right moment, just on the right things. That's what a real expert is. And Florence is just here to be that best co-pilot for you when you're helping people in their journey.
Yeah. Let's talk about Florence a little bit more then as like a clinical tool. I know we've been
Yeah.
talking about it like as a behavioral tool, but like
Mhm.
I will say I know Marcos just got to look at it just for a little bit, but I played with it for weeks now. And I'm just going to use myself here if that's okay, Guy. Like I know this is your proprietary like thing and you guys have a business, but I'm just going to share a few things without getting into the weeds, but I gave it all my data. I gave it my gut test. I gave it my brain health. I gave it
Cool.
my blood. I gave it my DEXA scans, my VO2s. I have like 3 or 4 years of data. And I just turned 31 and I woke up. The thing was like, you're 21 though, in
Nice.
my phenotypic age, which is like a great thing to wake up to.
Hmm.
Um, I will say two things. As a clinical tool, it is so cool to see all that data aggregated, but then synergized together right in front of me like that. Um, because, sometimes you might have a lab volume like A1C, for example, glucose A1C for those who are listening.
Hmm.
And then you might be wondering, okay, in real time, you have that lab, but then you have a wearable like an Apple Watch. Well, what does the
Hmm.
wearable have to do with your A1C? Oh, it talks about
Hmm.
movement. Or what does that have to do with your cognitive health? And it has an explanation for all these things. It has all these risk factors. And as a person that's seeing it from the clinic end, I'm like, wow, clinically, it has a severity score of like, these are what you should be thinking about. We have everything. But from like helping a person talk about something, it knows that. And then from just a patient side, it is so nice. It's elegant. The solution looks great. I can understand it. I don't need to be a clinical person to understand it, but it's, as Marco says, it's nice to have the human person there actually go through it with me to
Hmm.
be
Yeah.
like, oh, I have
Always.
some questions about this because like I don't necessarily I read the copy, but I don't necessarily want to read that. I want to have someone explain it to me too. So
Of
yeah, could
course.
you talk about that? Like what you guys are doing in terms of here, even with Synergenics, like what you guys are bringing to the clinical world, like what solutions you're trying to solve with, like for example, electronic medical platforms, like how doctors live in their EMRs and like you're trying to save them time, things like this.
Yeah. Of course. So first of all, I'm very happy that you liked Florence and the platform. That's really cool to hear. That's really why we do what we do. Why I get up in the morning, because if it's just theory, that's kind of boring. But if you get people to get excited about it and about their own health, that's the key. So thank you for that. So what we're trying to do, and we're seeing that clinics love it, is like you said, EMRs tend to be stuck in the old world of reactive care. Something broke, let's fix it. And Cenegenics has been pioneering the way for decades now, understanding that if your glucose is here, well, okay, but what if it's trending and in a year or two you're going to be pre-diabetic? Shouldn't we know about that iceberg just approaching us super fast and we might need to take medication with serious side effects? But we may just need to increase our step count with another 2,000 and just avoid some kind of sodas. That might be enough. Let's get the data. Let's get this actionable advice going. And classic medical records, classic medical tech is appropriate for something broke. Let's fix it. It's not built for preventing things. And one of our great clients, and thankfully now a very appreciated investor, they're building EMRs. And they're like, we could do predictive, but we love the cool data that you're having. We love that you're having, we appreciate the AI. And now we just want to go to market. People need it right now. Like, let's bring it. And they said, okay, whenever our physicians are doing proactive care, and now we're also implementing with primary care physicians, which for me, it's my aha moment because you have less data, you have less time, but you're still able to help people in their annual. finally I can get to more people and help more people. So from that perspective, building on top of EMRs, we're EMR agnostic. It doesn't matter if you're using Epic or Cerner or Oscar, or we know how to collect the data from an API, of course, with the consent, and harmonize it with the behavioral data and actually deliver something which is predictive, harmonized, but most importantly, it saves time from the paperwork.
How
And
much time do people spend in their EMRs, Guy? You had like a
wow.
statistic. I was like tripping out. I was like, this is so true.
Yeah. In high-end facilities like Synergenics, I've heard physicians tell me 1 or 2 hours. And the draft is being made in under a minute, and they invest this 10 minutes to make sure that it's exactly to the wording that they like, because it's medically accurate, but sometimes you just want to quarterback it the way you like to deliver
Yeah.
medicine. And then it just leaves more time to actually deliver what you came to work, why that patient came to visit, which is to meet each other, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I will say, Dr. Campion, who's here at St. James Beverly Hills,
mhm,
loved that tool of like dictation. Like I think it's like a dictation tool, and he's
mhm.
like, "Oh, I just give it a second set of eyes." Like Marcos, he was like, "This is exactly what I would say," and maybe massage it a little bit, right?
Mhm.
But he's like, "This is exactly what I would say," and he's like, "I just give it a look," and he's like, "That takes me
Yeah.
forever."
It's it's insane. It's insane that as you continue to get further along with your integration with like your like kind of cloning yourself, like making yourself be your own like AI copilot, like you
Mhm.
just said, like
Mhm.
it's kind of able to recreate again your quote, like even your wit, like things that would just be like part of your charm, and you're like, oh, like God, that's kind of crazy. I would say it like that, or like it may miss the mark just slightly on like one or two
Yeah.
things. And I think the other thing, like you mentioned about like just the agnostic element of that, and not again being able to just like plug in as an API to like pull from whatever existing thing. It's a very interesting thing. I feel like, I mean, how long have APIs been around, Guy? Like, has it
A while,
been?
a long while.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, like, I feel like all these different. I mean, for me, like the lay person, where, um, tr- again, like using like trainer eyes. Let's just use that as the example. With the current APIs, it has like maybe 4 or 5, right? Where it can plug into like Apple Health, Google Health,
Withings,
Withings.
Fitbit.
That's about it, right? MyFitnessPal. I think it's
Yeah.
5, like 5,
Mm-hmm.
right? And but then being able to just like you just say kind of aggregate and create information like in these more robust visuals for people to like understand better, right? And
Mhm.
man, I didn't want to interject, but now I think I lost my thought with the other thing I was going to say when you guys were talking. Wait, go back. So you said, Seamus, you said Dr. Campion.
He loved
The,
it, like the dictation. The dictation. He liked that being. It literally would say what he would say. Like so, let's say we have all this data on the person, all their scans, all their lab work. He would make the dictation, which is like his recommendations, and he's like, "That's pretty close to like what I would do. Like I like that it does that." And then you just take a second set of eyes and you just, double check that work.
Oh, because you said that we were talking about something. You and me were having conversations about what again, Seamus? Recently?
Dictate. Oh,
Not no no
retention, and like trying to figure out communications with our patient base
got it.
or clientele.
This is gonna
Maybe
bother me.
maybe I can touch on the point that you were saying on the API, that they're
Yeah,
here
yeah,
forever.
yeah.
But the challenge is there are many APIs. There are many solutions, types of genetic tests, microbiome, MRI machines. And while it's really great to have an API, and in many cases, like this wonderful clinic chain Synergenics, we have all in one place, many clients or many even consumers like to say, and I got this test. How about I just upload it? So Florence also knows how to read PDFs. And again, we're using multiple types of algorithms to make sure there's no mistakes, and we make sure that it's always evidence-based medicine. But we don't necessarily need to have an API. It just saves time, but you can still in under a minute just drag and drop some PDFs and she learns more about you. So
Yeah.
APIs are great, but reading PDFs is what really brings Florence to becoming an agent. Like she can now very soon, it's in beta, she can now very soon really help you out with your real life day to day. You can say, okay, it's been almost time to set my next appointment Cinegenics. I haven't done that yet. Let's schedule that. By the way, I like to do my microbiome test or my blood test before. Let's schedule that before. um, I was told that I should eat less carbs. Here's a dish that I like with other things I don't like around me. Let's order that. Or here's a training around me with a trainer that really knows my balance
Yeah.
that I need, and she can book that for you. So Florence is going to become eventually an agent thanks to APIs, but also things that does not require API to connect to.
Yeah.
Can you also train this model for me so that I can talk to Siri and tell it to set a calendar reminder with somebody that's in my contacts list, because I still can't figure out how to do that. but I mean, like, again, sometimes there's so many robust things that these things can handle, but some like very simple tasks that you feel like should just be such like a already integrated piece with like these
Yeah.
like virtual, these like software assistants, like it's funny. I mean, you would think that it would not be like super valuable, but there's like many a times where getting in there and doing something that's like so basic and part of your day to day, but then it doesn't have the ability to do that, kind of like throws you for a loop.
Yeah.
And I
True.
remember what I was trying to say though. So this idea of all these little things tracking, let's just say like CGM, a Whoop or whatever it is. I was having a conversation, and when you brought that up of like all those different integrated pieces coming into this hub, it kind of being like, okay, we were able to then kind of maybe validate particular elements of like people's health that we never were able to understand before, right? Because of the synchronicity about all this information, right? I
Yeah.
was having a conversation with my clients the other day, and she had mentioned, I don't know what was going on at this exact moment, but I had a crash and a dip with my blood sugar, right? And she also happens to wear obviously a CGM to be able to understand that, right? She's also potentially perimenopausal. So it got me thinking, and we don't know it definitively because she had a hysterectomy. So there's like, or partial. So I think the ovaries are still in there. So again, there's some confounding factors as to like, hasn't had a period in years, right? But then she's like, can a hot flash cause hypoglycemia? And I was like, I don't know if we can ever definitively know that, or can you tell if a hot flash might come on as a result of a hypoglycemic event? And I was like, this is all like really great questioning. And the answer is no one will likely know this because no one's getting down to this granular detail. But as more emergence of a tool, maybe like Florence or other AI things, have this information from multiple sources, and maybe they just put like, again, anecdotally, hey, every time I got low here, I did have that. And you just like tap a button or whatever. You're going to be able to like understand like some new frontiers of stuff. Like, again, like, wow. Like I was like, I didn't know that we were having this conversation today. I knew that we were talking about AI, but I was like, think about that. There's a lot of like definitive like symptomology or whatever that is, like that we still don't really know, that a lot of these things can kind of pull together and then also be like, hey, like quote unquote, like maybe you win a Nobel Prize because you figured out some sort of correlation between two things. Maybe they're completely unrelated. I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, I was like, it got me thinking. I was like, man, like it's really cool because as technology can get shrunk down and one device can do all these things, like I can only imagine what 10 years from now looks like. Everyone's wearing their, Gen 10 or Gen 15 Whoop. That's also a CGM that uses something just from like a skin reader. It doesn't even have to go in there with the little node anymore, whatever. And you're able to then identify a lot of these other underlying kind of conditional things. And also be like, oh yeah, you can kind of prevent maybe some of those hot flashes for in this case, maybe if you just ate a little food a little bit more normally with the nutrition. Like there's so many ideas like that that kind of come to mind that would be really interesting to know as we get more and as it continues to learn.
That's a very good point. And two things come to mind when you say it. The first one is that we just got required. I think it was also when we met Seamus, in Genetics. How cool it would be if I could just take on a graph and see my steps versus my sleep, and I can see that maybe if on days that I walk more, I sleep better. And even though there might not be enough medical evidence to support that, you could build your own graph. And people like to be in the know. People like to be
Yeah.
data driven and like to learn and about themselves, and they can actually build their own data visualization. So that's something that's coming up a lot thanks to our conversation.
That's
So
so awesome.
yeah, thanks.
No,
And
it's funny that you say that because the day afterwards, someone came
Mhm.
in and they say, "Yeah, I'm a quantified self geek,"
Yeah.
and they have their macros, they got their
Mhm.
steps, their exercise, their sleep, like they all this stuff, but they do it all through Excel and they have all the graphs trending all at once. And I was like, I know a company that's making this solution right now. Like, and it's so funny because it's like that's
Well,
also manual, but it's so true. I mean, Marcos, you make a sense of like this N of one, but then also N of one doesn't mean just N of one. Like
We
Guy
don't know.
says, there's like 1,000+ people that might be dealing with this. Maybe there's
Mhm.
some confounding variables that are likely the same. Like, yeah, maybe, if you did get more steps for this particular will help with your sleep, or even for you specifically, you as a person get this data on you to reinforce a behavior, like Guy's kind of talking about. I really love that. Yeah.
Hey, the future is bright when it comes to this particular area, like you just said. And I mean, again, the thing that I kind of appreciated more, even though it was like kind of a big lift for everybody in our organization to be like, hey, we got to like upload all this stuff, right? Reason being, we didn't know necessarily that technology could go and just scrape all that information and create something better than we've previously been doing, just because it all existed in that like digital landscape. And Guy, question though, like if this PDF was generated by a PDF creator versus like a scan that's in a PDF form, is the system smart enough to detect the difference and still be able to read all that with like OCRs and stuff like that?
Yeah, behind the scenes, it's seamless, but of course, it's different algorithms reading if it's a picture or if you can actually extract the text. Yeah.
Oh my
But
goodness.
it's really different behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, user experience feels the same, but it is two very different things. Because I was like, oh, I wonder. And again, this is just like we were historically we're taking our patient charts all digitally, right? So there are certain things that are circa. I mean, today there was one in there from like '07. You know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, we're like 20 years ago, and I was like, well, like it would be good to have all this in there just for whatever thing that might exist in the future. So basically, like all the things that I could separate out that would actually be like a test result that's like, actually usable for data and informatics, right? Where uploaded separate things, but then I just have like a historical, like complete scan of like 200 pages for this guy, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, Control F. Oh wait, this doesn't work because it's a scan. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yet. I don't know. Maybe Adobe will get that good in the future where you can Control F it because it uses something like that. But then it's cool. Like actually, because I didn't use a PDF, but I took a picture and uploaded it to ChatGPT, and it was able to actually read the thing and answer a math question when I was math tutoring. I was like, I haven't done fucking set theory in ages, so like I don't actually remember this formula offhand. And why would I? It's like useless information that I would probably just sub out to AI anyways, or
Today,
and
John, what task are we going to be left with as humans in 10 years? Good question.
That's a great question.
we don't know. Well, I mean, it's the logical thinking, right? Because I think, like you just said, like how your mind has like think fast, think slow, right? Like the two sides to that coin is like my mind's always thinking maybe fast in terms of like I want to like crank out this email really quickly to the person that I just saw because like all the things we talked about is fresh in the head.
Yeah.
But I'm also like, like, I need them to wait a little bit. Kind of like you just said, like I kind of like if it all gets done so quickly, like then it loses maybe like a human actually like, touched on that and thought about it a little bit. But, now I'm like, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to like, I should write down these questions that they come in the future. So I need a notepad or an iPad here so I don't forget what I was going to say. But like, literally, I'm like, I'm taking notes about everything we talked about with my patient yesterday, typed it all in there. And then I took that. And as I've been building this kind of like unique like channel and model of like my soap note / my email response, like it's getting better and better with every iteration of it. And I was like, okay, I like that. Get rid of this, do this, like, right. And it's like you said, it's like this whole, the thought process of like learning how to do something for that specific outcome, because you also have that anecdotal expertise, right?
Mhm.
Which the system is like your system's only pulling or trying to like have everything be validated, right? I mean, my thing might be like N of 100 of like coaching, but it's still like a good sample size, right? Or N of 1,000 at this point.
Absolutely. If it learns more about the behavior of the person in front of us,
Mm-hmm.
that's basically gold. And for that, you don't need evidence-based medicine. That's the beautiful part of the behavioral. The,
Yeah.
the medical part is the medical, and that's the stemming of the reasoning of why we want to advise on this family of interventions. But eventually, to fine tune it to our client, to the individual in front of us right now, it's just learning about that person. Well,
Yeah.
surprise, surprise! I don't like to get any advice on Minder Morning, and someone that doesn't want to get anything regarding nutrition this week. But look at that, they accepted one random advice on nutrition. Let's cling to that.
Yeah. And two, I think the way that somebody might approach their, again, like you just said, like their particular doctor intervention, right? It's different across the board. And that's something that is kind of unique when you go from center to center to center. And the thing about like, even like, the main physician that I work for, he's funny because he's like, some people can respond to 5, some people can survive to 2.5, right? But basically I'll write it like this, and I'll tell them like, we'll ramp it up until you feel like, if like for blood pressure medication, I'm going to give them the lowest dose. I'm like stack 2, 3, whatever, until we actually get to see that down for like a 5-day period, which I'm like, man, like that's like again, a whole nother way of doing that. But like, again, like then you have this other component of like, well, pharmacies won't fill something, if it's controlled, or all these other components of health. And I was like, that approach of like minimum effective dose, again, like that, I think is also a super important thing for medicine. I don't even know if it's 4.0, 3.0, 4.0, whatever. Like,
4.0 now, yeah.
Yeah, it's iterating, right? That's getting to the next step where it's like, I mean, I think we all know that, like, we want to get the best response with the least amount of work or into the system, right? Because then it can run seamlessly, and there's less energy overall and less bandwidth that anybody has to utilize, whether that's brain power or, again, just whatever else. Money, right? Like, just think of it like that. And so when he mentioned that, I was like, yeah, that is a great way of doing it. It's like, but then I asked him, like, but how do you do that? He's like, oh yeah, like I'll give them like a 90-day supply of like 5, and then we're kind of figure out where they need to be and where their side effect profiles. I was like, it's genius. It's like, that's why I like being around you, man. I love hearing the way that you're approaching medicine. It's very East meets West in a sense, because
Yeah.
you don't want to be like, yes, 20 to start, because that's like what all the literature said you're going to get the best outcome for. But that's where personalization still matters.
Exactly. Habits, like pharma-like habits, it's not one size fits all, and that's amazing that you're applying that in
I
Senegenic.
like what you say about that, guys. Like the physician is the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, they're responsible making sure that it's all in balance, and we I don't think us humans will ever want to replace meeting that expert that knows us, that has this compassion, that studied everything.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we'll expect that they will have the right co-pilots in mind as we move forward in time. But I think we will always want the experts around us, because that's what gets us activated best, and that's who we eventually trust.
Yeah. And didn't they try that, like a completely like AI primary care model, where it was like you can go in and it's like you get like literally treated with a primary care robot effectively, and it failed incredibly because there wasn't this element of human touch.
I didn't want to replace my primary care physician. I want them as my quarterback. I want to empower them. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I want a person to with me.
But that's it. It was like, that was the reason why, like, they did a survey, I believe, and it was like 9 out of every 10 people that went there was like, I wouldn't go back because I'm missing the one key component, which is literally like that human. So like you just said, the doctor should evolve to have tools so that they can, again, get more time with people, because then their expertise really is allowed to shine. But when you only get 5 to 10 minutes in the model that a lot of insurance operates now, again, it just feels as though like this person just treats me like a number, like I did back in college. Like all I've ever been is a number. And to eliminate that, I think will continue to be what your guys' technology and others will continue to really help with. It's really cool.
Yeah. I love it. I want to kind of end it here, just so to be respectful of your time, because we're close to an hour, but I do want to talk about this. Guy, I keep coming back to this movie. I said it to Hadar. I said it to you. I told it to Marcos.
Yeah.
There's this movie called
Mhm.
Afraid. AI
Okay.
is in the middle.
I like
Um,
AI movies. I like to be cautiously afraid of them, and then looking at where not to navigate. What's a good goal for AI, and what's a goal for AI that, you know what? Hopefully,
yeah.
will be left in the movies.
Yeah, well, it was a great movie. The whole point of the Afraid movie, I think they try to like wrap it up in the last 5 minutes, is that
Mhm.
it was a horror movie. It was supposed to be a horror movie, but it was not.
Mhm.
I really felt like it was a great movie. I was like, this is just like, it tried to make itself its horror because it was using like artificial intelligence had so much power, so much data that it knew how to leverage people against each other,
Mhm.
and basically use like information against you to like make you behave in the real world, like go kill this person or like go steal this thing because I have this information on you. It's like blackmailing people
Mhm.
basically, right? And but in the movie, this is the line that I told to Hadar, and I had like this philosophical conversation about basically speaking things into existence, or not even speaking into existence. Marcos, think about this: having this co-pilot so integrated in your life that it solves problems before they even became problems. So
Yeah.
in the scene in the movie, I told Marcos, I told you, Guy, and I told Hadar, I was like, in the movie, the mom is helping her child pack for school. It's like early in the
Mhm.
morning. It's
Mhm.
Monday morning. She's yelling at the husband, like, honey, I need you to like figure out how to drop this kid off right now because like I can't drop it off. I have to go to the insurance office because we have this medical bill to pay. And I
Mhm.
got to go to the market because we ran out of like snacks or something. And
Mhm.
before she could even finish the sentence or something like that, she goes, "Oh, don't worry. I got your insurance form. It's paid. I actually understood the taxonomy codes and I got your money back." I was like, what? And then two, she goes, I also did notice that you were missing some protein snacks. And just because of your child's condition, I put some iron snacks in there as well. Like, so it's like this specific
Wow.
snack that had like iron in it.
Yeah.
And then lastly, she goes, I think it said something along the lines of like, I could get you a Waymo, but children aren't supposed to drive in that car yet. But I think some time with your daughter would be helpful, so you can drive her. And I was like,
Uh,
dang, bro, that's where artificial intelligence is going, right, Guy?
Amazing, amazing. I'm always careful about what's the goal of the AI, and if we keep it for good, it's going to be good. So I think it's our joint responsibility. I will watch this movie. Cool.
I am watching. Is Netflix?
It was on Netflix. Yeah, it was
Okay.
on Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I do have like one last thing as we're wrapping this up. And this is more so
Yeah.
to like again maybe like the pace of aging and the
Mhm.
other kind of like the biological or epigenetic age type of differences thing. Like obviously your model is going into probably a great detail to understand this and actually be able to convey that information. And
Mhm.
I mean, like how confident, like Seamus mentioned being 21 versus 31, right?
Yeah.
Like how are we validating this? Like what does that actually look like? And what do you know about that? Like obviously it's I don't know if it's like I don't know if to believe the hype. I don't know if it's a gimmick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like is this just kind of is this normal? Because again, it just doesn't sit right with me. Like I'm 31. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I've been on here for 31 years. Granted, like age is just a number, right? And I think that's kind of the thing that like this is kind of leading into, right? It's like, but your number is actually this. So what is that? How confident? Like, what's the confidence score, p value, or whatever it is that you guys can say, like with like certain definitive with that?
Okay, so that's maybe that big question. So we'll wrap it up, but I'll break it down for us.
Okay.
So eventually, let's first think why age is important. Age is important because 80% of our unhealthy years, the most dominant risk factor is your age. So until recently, we thought, okay, well, it is what it is. But now we know that we can impact it. We can slow down the aging, or there's 12 processes in the body that you can see aging happening, which is basically accumulated damage in your systems. So you can see that you can slow down the damage in your systems. You cannot slow down time. You're still, if I'm 35, it means I just circle the sun 35 times, whatever that means. But maybe the systems in my body has less damage than people with the same age, gender, ethnicity, medical background, and you can slice and dice the more data you have. So it does mean
Mm.
something for your health. And the more you are younger, the less chance you will have these diseases. And 80% is a lot. So the question, I think, coming up next, after understanding why we find it important, is can you actually measure it in a good way? So if you're just looking at pure science, you could look at your genetics and your epigenetics. They actually won a Nobel Prize on that as well. Like Yamanaka factors, you take 4 proteins, you can go back to you can do a complete reset. You don't want to do that because then cells don't have a function. But you can use 3 of those, and then it goes back to factory reset, but with the function. So, it's not just a random cell; it's also a cell of the brain, of the muscle. You could do that. For mice, they proved it's true. Maybe one day we can get some research for humans. It's not coming
Mm.
up tomorrow. But we did notice that if you're younger that way, your DNA is less messy. Um, then if it's open, you can read it. If it's closed, circled in a helix, you can't read it. And if it's as the factory reset protocol, then it's good. The more messy it is, the more damage you've accumulated in that system, and that's proven to be of good causality and correlative aspects to diseases. So it really improves your quality of life. Big but here. Medical science doesn't like things it can understand how to influence. So
Mm.
physicians didn't like that. Physicians preferred a variation of that. That was done by Steve Horvath. He founded that field. And Levine, one of his doctorants, said, "Okay, I'll take it, but I'll take it from blood measurements. And
Mm.
blood measurements, doctors know how to impact." So she did a version of that, and that's considered the standard. If you're having 2 of those, then that's what the scientific medical community considers as a pace of aging. Now, you can break it down to different systems. Well, these biomarkers are more relevant for the heart. That's like the Framingham score, right? With American Diabetes Association for the metabolic system, or preventing mild cognitive impairment, which is the gateway to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and cognition, etc., etc. We talked about why they're not amazing. We talked about why we can get it more accurate. But if you take these medical standards with medical ingredients that you can impact and then calibrate it for age, and that's our research, evidently. In retrospect, I understand it's the largest longevity research in the world because we have so much data in people. When you calibrate medical standards of risk for age, you're getting a biological age doctors trust, and
Mm.
most importantly, they can impact. And yes, if you're looking at the data, it's significant for avoiding diseases and having your increased health span. So you could use the classic risks. Your chances for disease X in the next 10 years is 5%. I find it not the best information first thing I wake up. I like to say, oh, and you did that good for your biological age. It's just a matter of how you place it, how you feel it. It's more palatable, but it's the same numbers as just calibrated for age.
So then, this age calibration, as more people become healthier, theoretically, your age could be shifted a bit more. No?
Yeah, so if we were a mouse, it has been proven it could be reversed. So it's not a bad time to be a mouse. But for us humans, we can definitely slow down the process. This has been shown. And
Yeah.
we don't need biological age for that. We can see that risk factors can be impacted. You can take
Yeah.
things, you could take medicine for your hypertension and reduce the risk for the heart.
Yeah.
Um, the question is, do you put it in the same view? You know all icebergs in the next 10 years. You know how to
Yeah.
avoid them. You put it in one perspective of preventative. You
Yeah.
calibrate it for age so people would like to listen to the same number doctors are looking at. Um, but basically, it's the same old modern medicine that we're applying.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I guess I'll have to dive into it more to kind of get a bit more comprehensive picture, and or just get more familiar with your guys' software as it starts getting
Yeah.
unveiled. So I'll
Yeah.
I'll be in the trenches, being like, I don't understand this. Is like I'm like, okay, cool. Like I get the number, but I want to know how the number is getting got. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
No, that makes sense. And it's that's why medicine is sometimes deemed a practice, right, Marcos?
Yeah,
Because you
absolutely.
have your clinic, you get all this data, like guys helping us out figure out the big lifts with the data, it gives us all the risk factors, it gives out these printouts, the book about you, right, Guy, the
Mhm.
application, real time. But then it's the performance health coach, the clinical team, all of them going, okay, what is the practice here that we're going to try to do to really help this and collaborate with the person? And I think longevity AI is just, I'm excited because it integrates what we do have nowadays. Everyone's all about the artificial intelligence. Everyone's about these large language models. But now you're putting that into a framework of tons of healthcare data, tons of healthcare things. And it's like you said, Guy, I can tell from the bottom of my heart, like when you created this company, is because it really did come from a big pain. You're so passionate about it, but now it's the thing that is your profession as well. And it's beautiful because, sometimes we need people that are not medical people to look at it from an outside perspective. Like you came from like advertising to like go, no, we need to figure out the thing with this medical. And it's like, holy cow, it's such an amazing solution because everyone was so in the weeds about the medical that they weren't thinking about, well, actually, how do we create medical with the behavior, and then it's an assault. And it's like, no one ever thought about that. So thank you for that, Guy, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you for people like you for actually making utility of it and for teaching me along the way of what works and what should be done next. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Hey, well, Guy, again, super appreciative of your time, giving us a little over an hour. And I mean, I can keep picking the brain about like the depths of it. And again, I feel like for myself and Seamus, we're lucky because we'll be able to kind of see how this gets integrated from, again, our practices that were, basically been like part of the core of like this transition to, interventions and treatments that, again, are now kind of like pretty standardized in a sense across the US in a sense, maybe even the globe. And I like to definitely think that, while there's some people now that are in the forefront, like bearing the weight of, like the Peter Attias of the world, right? Very reputable and kind of like in this longevity thing, but then to also be like, oh my God, like literally that's been this company's like mission from day one is to figure out this like quote unquote, not I wouldn't say that like reverse aging. That may have been even in our pitch at some point. I don't remember. I mean, we've had a lot of marketing changes over the years. But yeah, man, I mean, thank you for giving us like a very high level kind of intricate thing that like we love and hopefully other people are also not maybe as scared about like what AI can be doing and also thinking about like how you should be incorporating it to become your co-pilot for a lot of things in your day to day. Because I mean, it's like the .com boom, right? If you're not using the internet, if you didn't figure out how to like understand like how you can make money with it, you're going to get left behind. So you have to learn how, hey, this is my particular skill set and this is how this tool helps me. Just like MyFitnessPal is just a tool for you to understand what you put in your mouth. AI is a tool to help you maybe understand things that you're aware of, but maybe not privy to understanding the deeper depths of it right away. And then you can ask better questions. So, yeah, guys, I mean, like, comment, subscribe, give us some feedback here. Again, Longevity AI, you can go to their website and be able to like look at that and be able to kind of see kind of what their interface actually looks like, kind of like in that demo mode. I see that it's like on your website, which I think is really cool. It's nice to also be able to then maybe like you just said, kind of look at those horsemen or those particular risk factors like in that dashboard. I even see that you guys even have some elements for people that are more on like the personal front, right? Versus just a part of like a provider or executive health thing, right? There's like an individual's kind of thing, which is kind of cool too. Like, I don't know what that even looks like. It's like you just download your guys' app and you start throwing up all your PDFs from all your other doctors and making sense of it a little bit more, right?
Yeah, for consumers, it's coming up soon.
Yeah.
For now, you have to go to Senegenics or one of our other ones.
Well, it's cool that you're giving people that option though, where they can kind of house all their different specialty people and like create their own hub of that. And again, people that are looking to provide that level of like expertise and like help, man, I think that's a huge game changer, because having that vault and that one place that houses all that info and that helps build that understanding like is awesome. And so
it's just, I love it. It's agnostic too. It's not like that's what I like about it too, right, Marcos? It's not like it doesn't have this agenda. It's just there to be supportive.
It's there to interpret, help and support. And so many people, you got to be an advocate for your own health at the end of the day. You want to build a care team that can obviously represent you, but you have to understand you too. So being able to do that is amazing. And thank you for creating that and continue to work on that and be in the forefronts of it. And we're excited to, be, using your guys' stuff in the near future. And until next time, Mac Perspective, show notes, take a look there. We got everything there. Follow us on all of our social media platforms. drop a comment in the actual comments if you made it this far. And then until next time, Macro Perspective, we are out.